there was something that is really close to my heart that I should mention. Um, Basically, look who is vilified in the media. There's no more vilified group here in Israel than who? The Hilltop Youth, the settler children. They're the extremists, Kahanists, violent, sectarian, messianic, right? All these words. They're the worst of the worst, right? They're the threat to the country. They're the ones who are destroying peace, etc. But in reality, um, they're not. They're not violent. They're not political in any nature. They're just a bunch of kids who are extremely Jewish and who want to perform the commandment of settling the land of Israel. And if, let's say, for example, these communities out here uh, in the Shtachim, as they call them, the West Bank, which is I don't think it's such a political term. I like it. The West Bank of the Jordan River and the East Bank is ours too. Both banks of the Jordan River are for the Jewish people. So these places, there is no crime. This is the best place on earth. Why? Because you have good Jewish communities. A Jewish community is always the safest place to be. I remember someone reading about how if there were Jewish people, there was a Jewish community would have guns. If the men there would all be armed and carrying guns. So you know what it's like before Shabbos, people get all, it's just going to be lead to gun violence in Jewish communities. Is there Jew on Jew violence in Jewish communities? Why is it that even if you have a Jewish community, let's say Mesh Arim, like I was walking with my daughter last year, okay, maybe they need to clean the streets a little bit. Why is it that women and children can walk the streets safely in the middle of the night there without any fear? Because living in a Jewish community is safe, because Jews by nature are Rahmanim by Shalom Gomei Chasadim. And the people who are the most Jewish in their communities, crime does not exist. It's safe. And the Hilltop Youth are the most Jewish. They're the ones who are trying and giving everything their all. And therefore, they're the ones who are the biggest boogeyman. What happened here was that a group of these young men apparently were being chased by a police vehicle. Some Arabs called in a report that they had been attacked by Hilltop Youth with stones. Whether or not this is something that even happened has not been verified because we have no one injured, we have no stones, we have no damage caused by this. But they said, Hilltop Youth. So a car full of these youths, some not even older than 20, were suddenly being chased by police near the reported incident. And apparently the police car knocked the Hilltop Youth car off the road and caused the vehicle to flip over, killing the driver. And thank God his friends escaped without injury. And they were arrested, of course, and the police investigation of the whole matter fell apart because there's no evidence of any crime having been committed. The only question is, did these kids not just pull over when the police told them to? They claim that they had just been suddenly bumped off the road by a police car that just showed up speeding and attacking them. It's kind of difficult to know what was going on because, like I said, the driver was killed. That was Ahuvia Sandak. And so they had to try to, here in Israel, they say lit fortik, to sew up. They sew, literally just sew from scratch, a file about these people, or what we call in English framing it. They had to frame this. So this young man was killed, and his fiance, apparently they hadn't officially gotten engaged, but he was about to be engaged to another young woman, to a young woman there, and she, because she wasn't officially saying Shiva like the rest of the family, went to the police station there in Tel Aviv, like the police headquarters, to recover his personal effects that had been in the car and seized by the police as evidence, including his tefillin. And they promptly arrested her and interrogated her for a few hours without a lawyer, without any due cause, which is also pretty bad, turning her into one of the biggest vocal activists for these causes. And the whole thing fell apart. And of course, the police people were not investigated for what they did. But I think it was last week, a little bit longer than last week, and we heard rumblings about this. What did they decide to do? The police have nothing to show for this whole story. So they decided to declare that one of the survivors of the crash, one of the friends of the deceased, was actually the driver. And they're going to charge him for, I don't know the exact legal term, basically charge him for causing the death of this young man, basically manslaughter. And that's pretty scandalous because the family and all the friends know that this young man was not the driver and he didn't do it. And it's kind of funny. You can imagine the poor parents and family of this young man who are now passed away. They're telling him, look, we killed your son, and now we are going to try his best friend for killing him, even though we did it, like justice. So you're going to have a trial. They're going to put this kid on trial for manslaughter. or whatever it is, the exact legal term. And you're going to have that the family is going to be there saying this isn't justice because we know he didn't do it. So it's pretty bad. Why is this close to home? Because as you could find in the Israeli press, this young man is our neighbor. This young man is the Rosh Kollel's very own son. The Rosh Kollel who provides us with this nice venue and with the food and with a lot of other things. You know who I'm talking about, the guy who gives the shiur here soon. So his son is a tzaddik. And the Rosh Kollel all day, he has a kollel that runs basically from midnight. There's the first shift until Vasikin, and then there's the 8 to 3 shift. And now we're going to start the Thursday night shift. As you know, they go all night. And then he does, in his so-called spare time, that's when he's busy providing food for the poor. That's what he does, raising money and providing food for the all sorts of hundreds of people. That's all he does. He lives a life of chesed, and his children do that. They're all the most dedicated, that's some serious nefesh, the most dedicated, kindliest people you could find on earth. And here they are going through this because that's the way the Satan works. When you see real emes, so you have to create the worst thing. They have to declare that his son is a killer. And I think that's just terrible. We have to do something about this. So there was another thing. There's a guy who's sitting in jail now, Amiram ben Uliel. You know that he was convicted on basis of what evidence? Do you know? You seen this? His confession under torture. Confession under torture, as you know, in any legal system is bupkis, because they could torture you and me for hours and then we'll confess to whatever they want just to get them to stop. So that's why this guy's in jail. Went to the Supreme Court, his appeal, and the judges there acknowledged that his confession was obtained under torture, and that's the only evidence. But because he did, it was such a heinous crime, burning down this family's house, he has got to rot in jail for the rest of his life. So this is another miscarriage of justice, if you could call it that. I wouldn't even call it a miscarriage of justice. I'd call it a quadruple abortion of justice. So you have a real problem. And you're talking about, like I said, the best Jews here you could find in this country. And that's just how it is. And it tells you that they're looking for this. The establishment, the media types are always looking for the boogeyman. They're looking for the especially good, enlightened Jews who are well-to-do, educated. They feel embarrassed of us. You know, in not say Nazi Germany in the 1930s, there were still Jews, even though the noose was tightening around their neck. Hitler hadn't expanded beyond Germany and Austria at the time, but they looked down on Jews to the east, the Jews in Poland and in what was then the Soviet Union, right? What did they call them? They called them Ostjuden, Eastern Jews. We're not like them. Okay? We're more civilized, we're educated, we're cultured, we're Western Jews. You know, we're not like them. They looked down on them. That was a problem because eventually they all ended up in the same situation, the same murderous situation. So too, there are people who look down on these Jews on the skirts of things. No, they're more unruly. They have more facial hair and more payas hair. They don't dress in formal clothing. They're different from us. They're more extreme in their positions.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.